Hey, welcome to this episode of Bloodhound Pix, where I am one of your hosts, Craig.
I'm Kyle.
And Josh.
And this episode, we are kind of shifting things up from our normal, cinema obscura segment in a way that we are dealing with, instead of a double feature, we're dealing with a 6-episode series as the cult hit Garth Marenghi's Darkplace. And it was made and written by Matthew Holness. It has a wide variety of the Mighty Boosh cast as well, which all of them kind of started out together doing Edinburgh shows, and which is Richard Ayoade. You have Matt Berry. I believe Noel Felding comes in. He's not one of the main cast, but he comes in, pops in. Alice Lowe is in it, and a slew of kind of other British comedians. The story itself, well, since this is Kyle's pick, I'll let him talk about it.
Yes.
And then we can get on to it.
The story itself is, the basic story is like it's a TV show recurring thing with it's a show created by a horror writer, cheesy horror writer that was never released in the 80s, and now it's being released, and it's interspersed with documentary interviews on the making of. But it's a horror / medical drama. That's, I guess you would say. I don't know. They're in a hospital going on horror adventures, and it's spoofing B horror movies, but also like cheesy TV. And it's all kind of, it's all the way it's done, pretty much. It's very over the top and ridiculous, but then also like mimicking the style of like old films, and then having like dubbing errors and editing errors and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so what were your, so I probably have different thoughts than I know the two of you, since this is something that I was interested in, and kind of this notion, because it came through, I guess, comedy people, which was always interesting, because it seemed, and then it was like years later, then the horror crowd seemed to latch onto it. And with kind of projects like this, where it's not necessarily horror comedy, but comedy, comedy with horror, or however the phrase is, it's interesting to see what, I guess, group finds it first, or stuff like that. So it's one that I've watched several times now, over a decade or more. But so what was it like then, watching this for the first time, and kind of why you pick it? And
I picked it because I know Craig had seen it, and one of our other classmates from grad school. It's like probably his favorite show, and he had written a show. One of his projects was like, trying to be the same thing, basically.
Is that Kale?
Yeah, one of
That's
his
what I
things. Yeah. I liked it a lot. Obviously, I was thinking about the same thing you were just talking about, Craig, of like, what's the category? Because it's not really horror comedy. It's really more of a spoof, I guess you would say. Yeah. Even though it's more...
It's a parody.
Yeah, it's more of a parody. But I liked it a lot. It's a lot of fun. It's so over the top and ridiculous. And I don't know. I love like 70s, 80s cheesy. And it's not even nostalgia, but parody of that kind of stuff. All the ridiculous things in those 70s and 80s horror movies. It's definitely one I could see watching more than once. And I love the fucking... I know, Josh is never going to watch it again. I love the fucking... all the paperback or the hardcover book covers that they make, because they just look like Stephen King books.
Yeah.
No offense to Stephen King. It's just funny.
Yeah. This is one that it's weird kind of rewatching it after some time for me because I think. Well, Josh is weirdly the one exception. Normally, anytime that somebody's watched it and they're also either a writer or creator of some kind or whatever, so it's like, man, I wish I made a show like that. Not necessarily Garth Marenghi's, but that idea of making a show that's purposefully bad, that's made to be set in a certain era, and I know I went through that phase. We talked about one of our grad school buddies. He wrote one of those, and I think was assigned to read one of his or that script from our I don't know what her name Dorothy.
Oh,
I don't know, our program director. She put me in the group with him for that portion, and that was a weird one to read in that sense because I was the only one who knew what I guess Cale, we've talked about him now, was talking about in terms of the influence. So you had all these people kind of reading it going, well, this doesn't really work right here.
Yeah, and it's intentionally.
No shit.
It's not supposed to work. But no, I enjoy it. That it has some really great lines. I actually the song in it by Matt Berry, One Track Lover, I have downloaded and I'll listen to it occasionally because it's a lot of fun. Josh doesn't think so.
That's one of the best parts where it just goes into that like 80s music video for no reason, basically.
What you kind of find, it's this whole medical drama. It's almost like a Dark Shadows series type of thing, and it's just all over the place. And there's a lot of lines that are kind of women bashing, but it's purposeful.
Yeah,
the fact that Alice Lowe plays a woman doctor is constantly brought up, and that she's too emotional and stuff like that. But her character even plays into it.
Well, and every time she something happens to her or something, they're like, "I'll go help you apply your makeup," or you should go wash your hair or something. You're just like, wow.
Yeah. And she's a psychic too.
Yes.
But one of my favorite the episode that always sticks with me is he's not the intern. It's the second episode where there's all the appliances because Alice Lowe goes crazy for a bit, because she's a woman and she's upset that people aren't respecting her, and all the appliances start attacking people, and there's the intern or the office assistant who just gets hit. It's like this barrage of
screwdrivers. It's like 20 screwdrivers.
Yeah. And then you have to get the obligatory remark about having a screwdriver drink at the end.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that wasn't fucking telegraphed at all.
I just like how everyone's bitching about that intern, and they're just like, this fucking guy, you better not get in my way, you better not slow me down. And then he dies, and then the lead guy's all sad.
Yeah. And there's guns fighting each other. There's floating guns, and there's they talk about in that episode this notion of that they're running. There wasn't enough script, so they extended all these slow-mo scenes, and I don't know. I guess we'll move on to Josh talking about it because he's the one. Yeah, I'm interested to hear.
Yeah, I don't know how interested you're going to be. This is where we're going to lose a bunch of viewers, a bunch of listeners. Yeah, this was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. The one thing that I kept thinking is you can't purposefully make something bad and hope that it's good. That doesn't work like that. So there's 6 episodes of this whatever season, I guess, and the shtick gets old really fast because it's literally just the same fucking thing over and over and over and over, and it's not funny. I think in the entire time I laughed maybe 3 or 4 times. And the screwdriver thing was one of them. Excessive violence. Fuck, that's so funny as shit to me. It just doesn't, it didn't work. You can't purposefully set out to make something awful. The filmmakers who made Slumber Party Massacre 2, they didn't set out to make a terrible film. It just happened. And it's great. This is trying to make something awful, and they succeeded. It's not funny, and it gets old really fast. Every single episode, I couldn't believe that it wasn't over, or that it was still on. And I guess, you know, it kind of makes the part that we just mentioned about the one of the actors talking about how they had to purposefully slow-mo sequences to extend the runtime. And it's like, yeah, that's pretty much the first thing you should never do. And so, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't nearly as smart either as I feel like it thought it was. Yeah, it was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. It's actually kind of scarred me in a way that I'll never forget. In that I will mercilessly bash this to anyone at any given moment. It's even gotten to the point where now, just between my wife and I made my wife watch one because I was like, am I out of line in saying that this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen? Because I want you to watch it and tell me. And she couldn't make it through one. And so
but she likes British comedy.
She does.
Okay.
And she couldn't make it through one. And so after this bullshit was over, I continually just looked at her and said, I'm Garth Marenghi, and she damn near went into convulsions just thinking about what she had to endure. And I had to watch the whole fucking thing. So now, anytime anything awful is on or brought up in discussion or whatever, I'm literally just going to look at my wife and say, I'm Garth Marenghi, and we'll both fucking literally go into convulsions from the effect that this had on both of us, which was not good.
I mean, it sounds like it's deepened your marriage in a profound way.
Perhaps. I mean, perhaps.
I'm interested what you guys think about this style of like parody with like interviews and stuff, because I assume this came out before that was a thing, you know, like now that's a style.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if that, because I feel like that style of comedy has been pretty tired by now, you know, like everyone has fucking done that, like talking to the camera.
Yeah, right. Because at the time they were doing it, it was kind of one of the first. Because now you have there's like Black Dynamite, which they don't have the interview section, but they did the whole 70s exploitation movie that was just found, or I forgot if it was just found or not, but that was purposefully bad. And you know, there's kind of a slew of those, which I did find too, that it's actually more costly a lot of times. And, takes more time to make one of those like purposefully bad things because there's so much in the production design, and you need the right type of cameras to do it, and you need, you know, then going out and shooting something. But yeah, I think watching it when it first came out for me, that was, you know, one of those things where there really wasn't anything like it, where now watching it I could, well, since I've seen it several times, there is I think some of the stuff doesn't hit quite as hard because there's been so many, you know, people that have done it since then. But yeah, I'm surprised that Rachel didn't like it all, because I was assuming that that would have been to have enjoyed it in that sense. But, and you're a big fan, Josh, of Matthew Holness's, well, his one film, Possum, and I don't know what you thought about those shorts he did.
Yeah, it's astounding to me that the same guy did that, because this is just terrible, and Possum was amazing. I mean, they couldn't be any further apart from each other in pretty much every way. One other thing too that just came to mind that I thought was really it almost was offensive in the fact that they somehow managed to throw a dig at Phantasm into the fucking dialogue, and I was like, "What are you, dude? No, that doesn't work."
How about the green water from Prince of Darkness?
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, Craig.
I mean, that wasn't a dig.
Right, and Craig kind of, or one of you guys, I can't remember now, mentioned it was you, Kyle, mentioned the books, and it was like,
Yes.
So they've obviously seen fucking In the Mouth of Madness too.
True,
which,
yeah.
that's not necessarily a dig, but it just seemed hilarious to me that they literally went out of their way to try to make fun of Phantasm of all things. Like, huh? Fuck you.
How dare they?
Well, I mean, it's just like, come on, man. Yeah, it was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. It almost broke me.
I mean, it wasn't Clownado, Josh.
See, Clownado was better to me.
Oh my
Clownado almost inspired me to like commit Roman suicide in a bathtub. Like I had tried to stage a military coup and failed, and I must like regain my honor.
Fair enough.
Okay. Well, what about groupers? Then, Jeff?
Oh God!
No.
Where does this go on your line of stuff?
Okay. There's several. I mean, I don't think I've seen a worse film than Groupers.
Yeah.
This at the very least, it felt like each 23-minute, however long they were, episode lasted about an hour, but at least it wasn't like, the episodes didn't line up with one another, right? So you could watch one and then go take a shit or whatever and come back and you wouldn't miss anything, right? So at the very least, there's that. And I mean, I guess one thing that I did kind of enjoy about it was, and it almost became, I guess what you could call too much, but they literally made fun of so many different things seemingly all at the same time that it was kind of ridiculous. Like, I mean, literally, you're parodying, docu-series, fucking cheesy 80s TV in general, continuity errors, editing errors, the guy that was constantly overdubbed for some reason, horror in general, Stephen King, fucking Twilight Zone, fucking Murder, She Wrote. I mean, it just, the list is endless of the amount of things, Phantasm, that they put in there, crammed into, 23 minutes and made fun of. So, I mean, again, it wasn't funny, and it's like, if you're making a comedy show, it needs to be funny. And in 6 episodes, I think I laughed maybe 4 times. So, I mean, ultimately, that cuts deeper than anything else for me. Like, it doesn't work. And the shtick got old really fast. I don't know. That's just me.
It would be interesting to see, just to look at the script for it. Because, reading Kale's scripts, it was like, weird.
And I never read Kale's things. I just figured that's who you guys were talking about, but...
Yeah. I mean, it's the same as this show. But it would be interesting from a technical thing, because, like, his scripts, obviously had to try and explain in the text, like, continuity errors and shit. And it's like, it's very confusing to read, kind of.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It's something that I think you would have to...
You just have to do in, like, editing.
Yeah. You were going to do it or direct yourself, I think.
Yeah.
Do that. Because I remember, in reading that script, and, and it's, if Kale is listening, it was a great idea. It was a great script. But I remember talking to him about this, that yeah, I agree, Kyle. That reading that stuff, it makes it starts getting really confusing because you're like, oh, okay. And there's all these like weird jump arounds, and there's because it's trying to make up for the fact that
well, it's just it's very conceived. Like, I don't think it's confusing because of his writing. It's just like it's like it's like you're reading a transcription of the of what you're gonna watch, like to every detail or something.
And then it brings up the whole, which we can talk about maybe in our 100th episode, but yeah, it brings up the screenwriter thing about directing your own, or directing the on the page, which people have an issue with if you add too much action or information,
which is
like that
bullshit.
That's all we have for Garth Marenghi's Darkplace. And the next episode of one of these will be a Josh pick, and stay tuned because we are going to be doing our 100th episode when we release our 100th episode, and it is going to be involving kind of more roundtable discussions, and there's going to be several other elements within it, and we hope you enjoy. And of course, if you have anything you want to suggest that is obscure or entirely independent that you think deserves to be highlighted, send it our way. Also, if you've seen Garth Marenghi and you either like it or you hate it or whatever it may be, and you want to kind of voice your opinion on it, feel free to message us, and we're always happy to kind of get suggestions or read what other people think about it, because we are only 3 individuals.
We're so alone
most of the time.
And so, thank you so much, and see you next time.
Bloodhound Pix podcast is part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcast Network. Produced by Josh Lee, Craig Draheim, and Kyle Hintz. Music by Raymond Seed. Editing by Kyle Hintz.